Yo, what is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Hangout. I'm your host, BJ Kicks, and this is a stream that we do every Saturday about 7 p.m. Hope you guys are all doing well. Now, if you're watching this on a replay, like I said, we do this pretty much every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So I hope to catch you live one day. But if you are here live, go ahead and say what's up in the chat so I can greet you. My man Tim is here. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Yes, 2023 is like a week away. That's crazy, isn't it? My man James is here. He's got Christmas trees. He's got Santa. Zag is here. What's up, Zag? And Mentor Prizes is here. He says, what up? What's up? What's up? My man Steven's here. What's up, Steven? What's up? What's up? Glad to see you all. Twas a few nights before Christmas. And man, it is a crazy time here. Today was my last day at my day job for the year, so I'm very excited about that. Hopefully, over the next week, of course, I'm going to enjoy the holiday with my family, but I'm hoping that between like next Monday and next Friday, I'll be able to really plan out some content, record some stuff, so that we can start out 2023 with a bang. There are some big things coming in 2023. And I just hope you're ready for them. Let's see. My man Max is here. What's up, Max? Skip says, best comics, huh? I mean, you guys are going to tell me. That's what we're talking about tonight. What were the best comics this year? Let's see. Mr. DJ's here, says, Daps. What's up, dude? What's up? And Valzad is here. What's up? What's up? My daughter is potty training right now. So if you hear a round of applause, that's for Squeak. Zag says, got all your shopping done? I give out money. It's just that easy. It's just that simple. So it's just a quick trip to the ATM, and then I got to go somewhere and grab a card to put stuff in. So the short answer is no, but kind of yes. Yeah, man. I don't even give out gift cards anymore. Like, let's just take out cash. You get some, you get some, you get some. Thankfully, I have some cash to give out this year. So that's pretty cool. But yeah. How about you guys? Did you guys get all your Christmas shopping done yet? Gabriel's here. What's up, Gabriel? Gabriel's been selling woodworkings so that he can get his Christmas gifts. So hopefully your woodworking business is going well. But yeah, man. So tonight we are talking about, the best of 2022. Villy's here. What's up, Villy? I hope Villy is doing some sketches and selling those. Haven't been on in a while. Glad to be back. I'm glad you're back as well. But yeah, so tonight we're talking about, the best of 2022. I should say my favorites of 2022. I feel like you can't have an objective best if you haven't read everything, and there's no way to read everything. I know I have a huge blind spot when it comes to indie comics and so on, but hey. So that's why you guys are in the chat to tell me some of your favorite books this year. Speaking of, go ahead and drop some of your favorite books in the chat. And while you do, I'm going to go ahead and shout out our sponsors. So first, a big shout out to Organic Price Books. They're the best place to go for collected editions. And as you can see, I got a couple. So we did a few overviews earlier this week. I did the Black Panther Omnibus by Christopher Priest, and I did the Ven Omnibus by Donnie Cates and Ryan Stegman. I got both of those from Organic Price Books, and you can too. Just use coupon code BJKicks at checkout to save a couple of dollars and support the channel. And speaking of supporting the channel, I got to give a huge thanks to the channel family. So if you are watching this on YouTube, you should see a button that says join somewhere below this stream. And these fine people, I was going to say gentlemen, I think they're all gentlemen, but just in case they're not, these fine people have decided to support the channel through their finances. And that's super helpful. Just helps me cover some of the cost of running this channel. And so I thank you guys for being dope additions to the family. Let's see. Oh, we got a few people in here. Kevin Carr says, hey, BJ, what's up, Kev? What's up? Tim says, thanks for the Christmas trade. It's better than a car with money in it. I appreciate it, homie. No problem, man. Yeah, man. You guys saw the video. Well, you may have seen the video. I did a trade with my man Tim, and Tim traded a platinum static. He traded a platinum static number one for I don't remember what was officially supposed to be in the trade. I think it was just a couple of issues of hardware and a static slab from the new season one. And of course, I had to add some stuff to that. So follow him on social media. He might show off his winnings in that trade. Kev's got the bats. Yo, thank you, Kevin, for being a part of the squad. Uncle Take is here. What's up, man? What's up? Zach says Noctera's got to be one of her favorites for indies this year. Nice, nice. Daredevil and Punisher. Daredevil is really good. I stopped reading Punisher, but yeah, Daredevil's really good. And not to spoil anything, but I think we're finally getting that Daredevil Punisher showdown next month. So I'm excited about that. Gabriel says, have you read Batman Spawn 2022? Is it any good? I did read it. It's got some of the typical Spawn tropes, like the same stuff that doesn't work for me in Spawn didn't work for me in this, but the art was amazing to look at. So it's got to be like one of the best drawn issues of the year, if not the best. I mean, it's Greg Capullo drawing Spawn and Batman in one 48-page book. It was going to be hard for any artist to beat whatever Greg does in this book. The story, you could take it or leave it. But it's definitely my favorite Batman Spawn art out of the three. So yeah. Kev says it's got to be Dark Knights of Steel for me. I've been enjoying Dark Knights of Steel as well. Are you nearing the end of The Walking Dead Deluxe now? No. The Walking Dead ran something like 150 issues. Let's look it up. 193 issues. So even, with it coming out twice a month, it's going to take like another 3 years for us to finish up that series. Billy says Greg is my idol. Yeah, I see why, man. If I was an artist, I think for me, I still kind of default like Jim Lee is the artist that I look at. Like I would love to draw like that dude. But Greg Capullo is definitely up there. But yeah, I don't draw. I mean, I sketch a little bit, like once every like 8 months or something like that. But yeah, man. Zach says, "Oh, I had no clue." Yeah, I didn't either when I started this project. If I had known The Walking Dead was 193 issues, I probably wouldn't have taken this on. Because what, 2 issues a month? That's 24 issues a year. That's 100 issues every 4 years. Did I do that right? 8 years? Is it going to take 8 years to finish this run? Maybe they'll start throwing like third ones in there or something. Phil's Nerdyverse says Dual Powerbomb is my best book of 2022. It's going to be very hard to argue against that one. Zag says Momogo is dominating. Yeah, she is like killing it on these variant covers. Also really enjoy reading Monkey Prince. Yeah, Monkey Prince had been like, Monkey Prince is my palate cleanser book. Like if I get too deep in the multiverse or I get annoyed by like, 8 books in the Krakoa age, right? Like I'll go and I'll read Monkey Prince and I'm like, yeah, this is why I like comic books. Let's see. Zach says, I like seeing a woman doing well in the cover area and also bringing a different style. Yeah, that's one thing that I love about Momoko's work as well. Like it doesn't look like anything else that's on the shelf, right? Like when you walk in a comic shop, you can tell which covers Peach Momoko did. And boy, did she do a lot of them, man. Like that's crazy. Let's see. Xavier says, world's finest. The art, characters, and storylines have been the highlight of my year. Also, can't sleep on Good Boy. Great indie title. Tim says, I actually enjoyed Monkey Prince. Yeah, I enjoyed Monkey Prince a lot. Dark Ages didn't do it for me, interestingly enough. Does that count as a this year book? Was that last year? Either way, it didn't. I don't know. I don't know why it didn't like really work for me. And maybe I didn't read the ending. Maybe that's why it didn't. But it wasn't as exciting to me as the Tom Taylor Elseworlds DC stuff that he does. How far are you from Roanoke, Virginia? There's a Comic-Con happening there in February. Sam De La Rosa. Michael Watkins, Kari Payton. Kari Payton. He's the voice of like every black guy ever, but who specifically? Cyborg. Is he Cyborg? Yes. That'd be cool. I don't know how far I am from Roanoke, Virginia. Let's look it up. It's not can't be that far, right? Because Virginia is like the next state up. I don't know where Roanoke is. 3 hours. I'm 3 hours away from Roanoke, Virginia. Here's everybody telling me it's Cyborg. Word, word. I appreciate it. My issue with a lot of Comic Cons is like if I'm going to a Comic Con, especially if I'm gonna drive 3 hours to one, like I want to meet like a bunch of comic creators. Like I don't like, yeah, it's cool to meet voice actors, especially depending on which characters they voiced, but like I don't want to drive that far to meet like one person, you know? That's why I love Heroes Con. But yeah, man, and you I don't want to communicate that one person isn't worth a drive. It's not that, but it is an investment, you know. Aqualad and Young Justice. I watch a lot of Young Justice. I have such respect for voice actors. Like in another life, if I had known that was a profession, maybe I'd have thought of like trying to pursue it. Um, I don't know. I watched cartoons my whole life and never realized like, you know, somebody could be in a cartoon. So crazy. I want to see comics at Comic Cons. Unpopular opinion, apparently. I mean, that's just how I feel. Again, like I don't want to communicate that anybody's like not worth the time or effort or whatever, because people are great in their own right. But I don't want to go to a Comic Con and then be like, all right, here's the one voice actor I met at the Comic Con. I don't know. If it was a voice con, then I get to meet like 4 voice actors, and then it's like, okay, cool, great. Also enjoying DC versus Vampires. Word. I fell off of that one. So let's get back to the format of the show. I always forget that we have a format now. So let's move to the next segment, which is recent pickups. I should say the first segment. So you guys know I pick up my weekly pull list every week, and I tell you what's on that. If I get anything outside of that, then I would like to show it off on the recent pickups instead of doing an unboxing video. So this week's recent pickup is actually a straight up like academic text. This is the politics of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is comics adjacent. What's cool about this is a series of, I believe, 25 different like academic essays analyzing the politics, the world building inside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. 25 essays by 30 different political scientists and edited by and put together our very own Nick Carnes. So Nick Carnes is actually a member of the K Squad on Facebook. So if you're in the Facebook group, I gave him a quick shout out. And this is one of 2 like academic comics analyses that I have. The other is a book about Milestone. But the Milestone book is written all by one person, but it's a very academic slant. It's written by a university professor. This is written by like 30 university professors, and there are topics in here, including, is there a table of contents in here? Of course not. But one thing I saw was like the geopolitics of Wakanda, Black Panther as an origin story of Wakanda, MCU villains and social anxieties, environmentalism is how you say that word, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Spider-Man Far From Home as a cautionary tale. So anyway, talking about how politics are sort of laid out in the MCU, it's just interesting, like relating this back to the real world. So I'm definitely going to read this slowly. this is quite the tome, but I'm excited to have it, and I had to support my man Nick when he told me this book was coming. He sent this to me, so I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna definitely make sure I shout you out on all my platforms because I think it's an interesting text. There's another one where it's like some guy read like every Marvel comic ever and analyzes the politics from that lens, like the in-universe comic politics. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. But anyway, That was my recent pickup. And now let's move on to the review of the week. Now, the review of the week is where I take one book that came out this past New Comic Book Day, so yesterday, and I just give you a quick here are my thoughts on this book. So this week, the book I was most excited to read was Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, issue number 7. And so, of course, I read this first. Now, you know what's weird is I thought this was like an acetate cover that would reveal Dick Grayson in the whole like Messiah pose. And it wasn't that. Like, it's definitely a double cover, but this whole like, this is the cover. It's not, that's the piece of paper. There's no cutout, but then the first page is this. And I mean, as you know, this gives away pretty much what happens in this book. Somehow, Dick Grayson is the key to saving the world and ending this event favorably. And that's kind of all I'll say about the plot of this particular issue. And I wrote about this inside of the Discord group. And yeah, how was Nightwing and Dark Crisis? Yeah. So I wrote about this in the Discord, and that was kind of like, because I fancy myself a member of the Comic Book Commentators Club, right? I stay on top of news. I watch a lot of interviews. I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff. And so basically everything Joshua Williamson said was going to happen in interviews happened. Of course, he didn't give away exactly how the story goes, but even without knowing where the story goes, we know like where the overall DC universe is going. They're going back to infinite Earths and infinite universes and all this like being a thing. And so every story you've ever read is canon, because even if it didn't happen to like the main universe, it happened like, on some other Earth, like the Milestone Dakota universe is Earth 93. The universe that the Batman 89 movie takes place in is Earth 789. So we're going into this new state where everything is everything. What is meant to be will be, right? Joking. But yeah, like because of where this is going, I'm excited. And there's definitely some stuff like plot wise that happens in this issue that definitely has you like, oh snap, like, okay, this person's going to be a major player. This person's setting things up for the future. But all in all, we knew a new status quo had to be achieved, and we knew it was going to be achieved in this issue. And so this issue wasn't like some standout to me, but I still gave it a 7.5. Still a pretty good book. I enjoyed the event overall, but more so than the actual event, I'm excited about where DC is going. So that brings me right to Menterprise's question. Says, are you looking forward to the dawn of the DCU relaunch? Yes. I'm a big DC Comics fan because I'm a big DC animation fan. And one thing that I have not enjoyed about DC Comics since I started reading them in 2019 is there aren't a lot of them, right? Like, you get Batman, you get Superman, you get Flash, but other than that, you don't see a ton from like the cool supporting characters. Green Lantern doesn't consistently have a book. Green Arrow doesn't consistently have a book. There's no Vixen title. And so with the dawn of the DCU and all these new titles that they're going to introduce over the course of the next year, I'm excited to see like different takes on different heroes that we don't hear from, and that often, instead of just having 85 Batman books on the shelf. So I'm excited about it in that way. I am also a Nightwing fan, so there's some stuff in this issue that really kind of set up a new era for Nightwing. We're told that the Teen Titans are going to be pretty integral to stories in the DC universe over the next year or so. So I'm excited to see them because I like the Titans. So I'm excited about the promise of where things are going. And I pretty much trust Joshua Williamson. So if he's like the so-called showrunner, then I think things are are headed in a great direction, but I still kind of look at things with a healthy amount of skepticism, like how's the execution really going to go? And I guess we really can't answer that until, January. But I'm definitely excited about Joshua Williamson on Superman because Jamal Campbell's on artwork. I trust Joshua Williamson, whatever, but I've been wanting to see Jamal Campbell on like an A-list DC character since he drew Superman in the pages of Naomi season 1. So I'm very excited about that. It's probably the book I'm most excited about that's on the slate in January. But there's a lot that's yet to be revealed. I'm curious about this Green Arrow book and how they execute that. So yeah, the short answer is I'm pretty excited about the future of the DC universe. I'm certainly more excited about that than I am Marvel, where it just feels like event after event after event, and I'm like going into each event sort of kicking and screaming, like I really don't want to do this, but I guess you're tying it into the one series I care about, so I guess I got to read it now. Looking at you, Dark Web. But anyway, that was my thoughts on Dark Crisis issue 7. Overall, a great issue. It's definitely a great book if you're a fan of Dick Grayson. There are some nice moments with Batman. There's some cool stuff that happens in that book without giving too much away. I was kind of annoyed though. The Dark Crisis issue 7 is or they had a one shot, I think last week called last month sometime, called Dark Crisis, The Dark Army. There's something major that happens in the Dark Army book that you need to read, honestly, before you read issue 7 of Dark Crisis. And I decided to skip it just so that I could get this review ready for you guys before the stream started. And I was definitely mad that I skipped it. So read that. Tim says, I grew up being a fan of Tim Drake as Robin. Well, Tim Drake is Robin in the current series. So, yeah. Kyle says, yo, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone. What's up, Kyle? What's up? Merry Christmas, sir. Could a Batman Michael Myers crossover work? I started writing one. Would love to be a comic writer in the future. I think any crossover could work, right? The key to a crossover is listen to me talking like I'm a writer, but I think the key to a crossover is understanding like what is central to each character, right? Like if we know, and with Batman is one of those people that can like really go any direction. Like you could play Batman like Adam West, you could play Batman like Christian Bale, you could play Batman super dark like Ben Affleck, and he's always Batman. So if you kind of pick a pillar of his character, his personality, and stick to it, and then you kind of do something that's just as defining for Michael Myers, it could be an interesting crossover. Like with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Power Rangers crossover, I really enjoyed it because it made sense. Like everybody in the book did things that they would normally do in their own books. They just did them in front of each other. And, we got like just crazy stuff. You got Shredder taking a power coin, but it's like, of course, Shredder would take a power coin. Of course, the Turtles would try to find a way to suit up as Power Rangers. Like, of course, they would like be like, yeah, cool, this is totally awesome as they're doing it. So anyway, that's what I enjoy about a good crossover. Like, give me the characters that I know being the characters that I know in a different setting. So my man Chris says Avengers has really jumped the shark toward the end of Jason Aaron's run. I'm just looking forward to see whomever takes it over to give it a fresh take. Yes, speaking of jumping the shark toward the end of someone's run, the other books I read this week, and I don't have them nearby, but I read Black Panther. I read Black Panther number 12. And I was just talking about how much I enjoyed issue 11. I felt like the series was taking a good turn and we were going to start to get like some good action and good character moments from T'Challa. And then I read today that John Ridley is actually leaving Black Panther after issue 15. So we've got 3 more issues of John Ridley's Black Panther. And it's not so much that like I was enjoying the story so much that I don't want him to leave the title. But I really felt like I could have. How's that show format going? How about this? How about this, Skip? Now we're talking about what's in the news. There we go. We've transitioned out of the review of the week. And in the news this week is that John Ridley's leaving Black Panther. And so again, I'm thinking, all right, cool. We're turning a corner. We're about to build T'Challa back up. He's about to be like great again and blah, blah, blah. Making T'Challa great again. And it didn't if he's leaving after issue 15, then that means that including the issue I just read, we got 3 issues left. Oh no, my bad. We got 3 issues left. And we're not going to get this nice, long, triumphant T'Challa arc. We're going to get T'Challa fumbling around for the next 2 issues. And then in the final issue, Angela Bassett's going to come out of the clouds and be like, show them who you are. And then we're going to have a nice fight. And T'Challa's going to all is going to be well in Wakanda. And then the run's going to be over. And that's just a disappointing. I didn't enjoy the ride enough for that to be the way it ends. That's how I feel about John Ridley leaving Black Panther. So as much as I'm like, okay, cool, I like to see what somebody else does with it, it just means it makes this run even more unsatisfying. Ramonda is the MacGuffin. I keep hearing that word. I should look it up. What is a MacGuffin? Yes. A MacGuffin is an object, device, or event that's necessary to the plot and motivation of the characters, but insignificant, unimportant, or irrelevant in itself. That's facts. Gabe says only 7 likes. Hit that like button, y'all. I would appreciate it. And thanks for telling people to do that, Gabe. So yeah, that's what's in the news this week. What else happened in the news? Aftershock filed bankruptcy and owes a bunch of comic creators a whole bunch of money. And now every YouTuber in the world is, forming their outrage streams to say, see, I told you that comics sucked and that the industry was going to die. And I don't necessarily have that take. I do think that you can make the argument that comic publishers have put too much stock in Hollywood and getting streaming deals and stuff like that, and it wasn't a great place to build the foundation of a business on. And so some people are gonna go through hard times or whatever, but yeah, it is what it is. I think the news of one company filing for bankruptcy is just that, news of one company filing for bankruptcy. It sucks for everybody involved, but I don't know that one company is a microcosm of the entire industry as much as it's like, okay, that's the failed business practices of that one company. Now, one instance is one instance, 3 is a pattern. And so we'll wait for the other chips to fall, as they say. See if there's anything else going on in comic book news. I hate looking for comic book news because all of comic book news is really just movie news. And that's not what we talk about here. And nothing to talk about here. Nothing to see here. There is like a leak of some panels from the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers crossover, where apparently some of the turtles may be black. I don't know. I didn't look into it. I didn't want to look at the preview because I want to read the book without spoiling it for myself. So we'll see what that's about when that book comes out. Skip says, I liked Aftershock. Sad to hear the news, but Aftershock is one tiny publisher. They could have simply mismanaged their business. It's not like that has stopped happening. Exactly. Again, once there's a pattern, but we'll see. Aftershock may not be going away. They just filed Chapter 11. They didn't say they were dissolving the company as far as I've read. Yeah. I feel like Chapter 11 is like, the question is like, how do you, like, what is the reorganization plan? Like, and what do you do, right? Because Chapter 11, that means you're going to probably bring in new leadership. You're going to go after like different dealings, try to find new ways to infuse cash into the business. And how are they going to do that? Are they going to sell off portions of their business? Are they going to try and option more things? Like, because I mean, if that's the strategy that got them into this, then maybe that's not what they want to do. Um, it's going to buy them time, if nothing else, though, as long as everything goes well. But I'm not a bankruptcy lawyer. I'm just regurgitating things that I read elsewhere. So we shall see. We shall see. I wish there was a good website or source for comic news. Feels like it's all just pop culture news or anti-woke rage baity news. Yeah, I mean, the problem with comic book news is there isn't any. Like, even when I go to like the so-called comic news sites, they're all opinion pieces, and like sprinkled in, it's like, oh, here's a preview of the next issue coming out next week, or such and such is writing Batman starting in January. And it's like, that's cool. But I mean, is that news or is that just press releases? So I started a website last year. It's called comicsaredope.com. And I've flirted with the idea of trying to make that a news site, like signing up for all the press lists from all the comic publishers and trying to reach out to people for quotes and stuff. And it just, to me, it doesn't feel like it's worth the effort, right? Like, you're gonna go to Bleeding Cool, you're gonna go to CBR, you're gonna go wherever you're gonna go, and I mean, yeah, you got to wade through a bunch of TV and movie news to get to the comic news. But if I'm honest, if it all it was comic news, it'd be kind of boring. It wouldn't be, So for me, being one person with a day job, a family, and a YouTube channel, it didn't make sense for me to try to be a news site. But what I can do is, you know, my weekly newsletter. It's called This Week in Comics, and it's gonna start back in earnest in January. And what I will do is I will scour the web for the news. So you might not get it first, but at least it's curated 3 stories. Here are 3 things happening in comics this week that you can look forward to. So we'll talk about it. We'll talk. There's more information about how Comics Are Dope can serve you, the comic community, coming in a couple weeks. Tayshawn says, I'm usually not a shield for Peach Momoko stuff, but I caved on that Black Panther variant that came out this week. Couldn't help it. I did see the Peach Momoko Black Panther variant, but I don't think I saw it in my shop. Black Panther 12. Yeah, I didn't see that cover in my shop, but I did see, where'd I put it? This one. I didn't even look to see who it was. I just assumed it was Alex Ross. But why would Alex Ross do an A cover and a B cover? So let's look it up. This is a B cover, or, a variant cover. I don't know which variant cover it is. Black Panther issue number 12. Massafera. Felipe Massafera. I have never heard that name before, but man, he did a great job on this cover. He did such a great job that I bought this and the A cover. So there you go. There you go. Skip says, facts, most actual comic book news is just when books are coming out, delayed or canceled. Yeah, and it's like, if you care about comics enough to look for comic book news, you already know when a book is delayed. Like, we're nerds. We already know where to look for solicitations and to where to go to like League of Comic Geeks and see, oh, that's not coming this week anymore. Like, we know where to go to find that information. I don't think we need another news source. Where's Daily Planet when you need a good source of the news? I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. If I ever get to a point where I'm doing this full time, then maybe I could become like a comic book news person, but I don't necessarily see that happening. Mark Alon's here. What's up, man? What's up? Late, but I'm here. I feel you. And you're here just in time. So we're going to get into the topic of the week. And of course, I didn't make a special title card, but let's do it. I can just upload the thumbnail, right? So let's do that. Tonight, we're talking about the best comics of 2022. And like I said, the word best is really just a placeholder for the word favorite. What were some of my favorite things that I read this year? When I go through the books that I have purchased all year, it's just kind of, I read a lot of superhero books. Almost all the books that I read were superhero books. And some stood out to me more than others. And we'll talk about them. So we're going to do this the same way that we did it last week, where I'm just going to go through the books that were on my pull list and show you month by month what my favorites are. But you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to try to just name some of my favorite stories off the top of my head. So I think the first story that comes to mind is Do a Powerbomb. Do a Powerbomb. I talked about it 2 weeks ago when I was talking about like the best indie books. But Do a Powerbomb was one of those books that was not on my radar. I started reading it on a whim because it was like really inexpensive on Comixology. And I read 5 issues in one sitting. And then I was like, yo, I got to get the rest of this. And it's written by Daniel Warren Johnson, drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson, with colors by Mike Spicer, letters by Russ Wooten, who I believe also does the letters on Firepower. I don't want to mischaracterize Do a Powerbomb. I got it right. So yeah. And it's this story about a girl. Her mom is a professional wrestler who dies in the ring. She, of course, wants to follow in her mom's footsteps, and her family is not supportive of her doing that for reasons that are revealed in the book. And she ends up, in a wrestling tournament for the ages to try to bring her mom back from the dead. And, the results are the results. I won't spoil them. But in that book is like so much heart, along with action and just like comic book hijinks, like a lot of the same stuff I praise Tom Taylor books for. But because it's a self-contained story, it's got a beginning, middle, and end. It hits a lot harder to me. And I liked it because it packed such a punch, even without being like, I don't know, it wasn't like watching like a Lifetime movie or whatever, but it's also like not characters that you know anything about, even with it being a book centered around like professional wrestling, which is not something that I'm a super fan of. Like, I watched wrestling like any other kid in the 90s. And that is to say, whenever The Rock was on TV, I watched it, but I wasn't like the biggest wrestling fan in the world. But I cared about wrestling. I cared about the outcome of every match in that series. And I cared about all the storylines outside of the ring. And so it's definitely like up there when it comes to my favorite reads of the year. Tayshawn says, Do a Powerbomb is definitely my favorite this year. Great follow-up after Murder Falcon and Wonder Woman Dead Earth. Hoping to see more stuff from Daniel Warren Johnson next year. Word. Tim says, Blood Syndicate Season 1, Jessica Jones, The Variants, and lastly, Punchline, The Gotham Game. Is that the Gotham Game? Is that the new series that's out now? Mark Elon says, Do a Powerbomb definitely captured the spirit of the wrestling era. Yeah, like everything that I remember about wrestling from when I was a kid was in that book. But it was really cool. Raven Antoinette says that's the new series that's out. Word. Appreciate that. I have not read it. I was for a while. I mean, I picked up the entire Joker series just to get the Punchline backup stories, and then like I fell off of that after like 5 issues, and I never went back to catch up. And then they collected all those Punchline backup stories in one hardcover, and I was like, I probably should just buy that. But then I got the DC Unlimited app, so I wonder, You know, DC Universe has that whole Ultra thing, and now they've got graphic novels in it. I wonder if they put out that Punchline graphic novel on DC Ultra, or if I've got to go through the Joker stories to read the Punchline backups. Let's see. View all results for Punchline. Yeah. Looks like they did not put the graphic novel in there, so that sucks. That's whack. They could have put that in the little graphic novel section. Let's see if they put it in the graphic novel section for the Joker. They did not. That's a missed opportunity, DC. Yes, The Trials of Alexis K. Raven says Punchline is going good so far, and I'm still working on collecting Blood Syndicate. I have issues 1 and 6. Word. I don't have any extras of that. If I did, I'd let you know. I could probably find some. But yeah, so since we're talking about Blood Syndicate, let's do it. So one of my other favorite titles this year has been Blood Syndicate. And let's just go and find the latest issue so that I can put it in here on the screen. Blah, blah, blah. One day I'll actually like prepare before a stream starts. Here we go. Blood Syndicate Season 1. All right. So Blood Syndicate Season 1, another one of my favorite titles this year. Written by Jeff Thorne, art by Chris Cross, but also with art by... Who else did art in this series? Because Chris Cross didn't do every issue. Even though they... Sean Damian Hill, that's who did issue 5. I also believe he did issue 4. But yeah, so Punchline, this was part of the Milestone Returns era, and you guys know that I've been big on all the Milestone Returns books. Like, if I had to do a best of 2022, I'd probably just throw them all in there. But with Blood Syndicate was my favorite of the original titles, and this was a different take on the Blood Syndicate because in the original Blood Syndicate book or title, with issue 1, you are jumped like straight into the action. You know what I'm saying? Like the team is already the team. They've got their own motivations. There's some infighting within the team, and that's really the book. But with this title, without spoiling anything, you get like a nice slow introduction. It almost feels like watching like Boys in the Hood or any hood movie, coming of age sort of hood tale. I don't know how else to put that, but you get like this kind of slow walk introduction to all the characters while you're also learning how life is on like the so-called other side of the tracks. Like if Dakota City is like, the suburbs, then Paris Island, where they live, is the inner city, the urban center, the hood, right? And so how is life over here? Because either they don't know, don't show, or don't care about what's going on in the hood. So we get introduced to the characters, we get introduced to the landscape, we get introduced to the major villain, who is this guy on the screen, Holocaust. And we get a nice confrontation, and we see how the team comes together. And I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed being introduced to all the characters, getting some backstory, getting backstory that we didn't get, at least not this soon in the previous titles. So definitely a good read. Like, whether you're new to the Milestone universe or you were a fan of the OG stuff and you missed that, this was a great distillation of what that series was. And it's a great new spin on it. Raven says, I actually like the hood tale vibe because that's how I grew up, and showing that gang is an actual thing. Yeah, exactly. And it feels as authentic as like a John Singleton film. Like when I say that, I say it like in a complimenting way. I say it as a superlative. Is really that's how I feel about it. Like it feels real. And it's funny because that's the same vibe you get really with any milestone book. Like the takeaway is, hey, this feels like real life. And I enjoyed it. Bizarro says my favorite read has been going through my milestone compendium. I forgot how great those stories were. A little over halfway through and can't wait for volume 2. Yeah, volume 2 is out next month, unless they pushed it back to February. But I'm pretty sure volume 2 is out like January 20th or so. Kevin was able to get the Raza variant of issue 1. I am very fortunate to say that I got every single cover of every issue of Blood Syndicate. I bought that book like 4 times a month because I would buy it digitally. I'd buy cover A, I'd buy cover B, and if there was a cover C, I'd buy that too. And yeah, I don't regret a single purchase of that series. So Blood Syndicate definitely on my list of favorites for the year. Another book that surprisingly made it onto my favorites of 2022 is Action Comics. Now, Action Comics has been in the middle of it, or for a very long time, for like 18 months, was in the War World saga. And we're finally out of War World. We're off of War World. And a whole new era for the Superman family of books is coming next month, starting with Joshua Williamson rebooting the Superman title. I have not read the most recent issue of Action Comics. Oh wait, I don't think that comes out until next week. But well, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a big thing that comes back in the next one. So I'm excited about where Superman's going. But anyway, Action Comics, what I loved about it was still Superman being Superman. Like I would argue it's as great an introduction to the character as anything, but because he's not on Earth, he's not in Metropolis, he's not wearing the traditional Superman uniform, I feel like a lot of people were kind of like disconnected from it, but I enjoyed it. And I think like if Superman is like your aspirational hero, if he's supposed to be like your favorite hero's favorite hero, if he's supposed to be like a beacon of hope to the world, to the country, to the universe, he's definitely all those things in this book. And still a family man. So I have enjoyed Philip Kennedy Johnson on Action Comics ever since last year, but it's carried over into this year. And he's not going anywhere. So I'm going to keep reading Action Comics into 2023. Let's see. Raven says World's Finest actually going good as well, but Catwoman vs. Punchline in Catwoman number 50 was really lackluster. Word. Truth and Faith passed on Catwoman 50, felt the same way. Truth and Faith has all their OG milestone books 1 to 5, Tech 9, and the Boogeyman. Were the one thing I will say about the milestone stuff, and this has kind of been my critique of all the Milestone Returns books, is if you want a book that's just going to get to the action, the OG Milestone definitely does a better job of that. A lot of the new Milestone, well, pretty much all of it, it feels like it's being written for the trade. Like it does feel like a pitch of sorts. And it feels like we could have gotten more story in the story. I feel like Blood Syndicate is a nice exception to that. And so is Hardware. But Static and Icon and Rocket definitely felt more like, hey, here's an idea for something that could happen in the future, maybe. Omnibus Cafe, what's up? Are the Milestone Compendiums in chronological order? Yes, they are. Now, chronological order how? So the Milestone Compendium 1, let me spotlight myself for a little bit. Milestone Compendium 1, while it does contain like the first 8 to 12 issues of all the series, it's not like in publication order. So like originally it would have been like Hardware number 1, then Blood Syndicate number 1, then Icon number 1, then Static number 1, right? And that's not how the compendium is built. The compendium is mapped like Here's hardware 1 through 8. Here's icon 1 through 8. Here's static 1 through 12, and so on. You don't necessarily need to read the milestone books like all in publication order. They don't like rely on themselves that heavily. But if you do read all of them, there are things that are like revealed, and you sort of get like a better understanding of the whole world. Like there's definitely crossover, but they don't rely on each other a ton. Let's see. Man, Catwoman was dope as heck. I haven't read it. I honestly never read the Catwoman title. I think there were a couple of Artgerm covers when I first got into comics, so I bought it just for that. But I never like followed the Catwoman book. Let's see. Tim says Joker War arc is the best Batman in my opinion. It was definitely really fun, especially compared to the Tom King run that came before it. I enjoyed the Tynion run of Batman through Joker War. Not so much after Future State. I didn't really care for the Fear State event. But yeah. I like Catwoman Lonely City better. My man Buckmaster B, who writes for the website comicsaredope.com, says that Catwoman Lonely City is the best Catwoman story ever. Raven says Death Metal event was awesome in my opinion. I enjoyed Death Metal. As well. So Omnibus, I hope that answered your question. They're in chronological order. They're not in publication order. You can read them straight through and don't feel like you missed anything or like you spoiled yourself or anything like that. But yeah. The Death Metal Omnibus come out in January. Is that? I think the omnibus that's coming out in January is the original Dark Knights Metal. I don't think Death Metal's getting an omnibus yet. But my wife and daughter are loud. Did you enjoy Department of Truth? I did not read Department of Truth. I would agree. Long Halloween is one of my favorite Batman stories. It's definitely in my top 3, and it's probably number 1. So what were some of my other favorites in 2022? Batman by Chip Zdarsky. Ever since issue 125, this whole failsafe arc has been great. I enjoyed it a lot. So basically, this is sort of like a sequel to Tower of Babel, where we learn that Batman's got contingency plans against every member of the Justice League. Well, he also made a contingency plan against himself, and it's a robot that basically has an AI and knows how he thinks and how he moves. And so he knows how to put Batman in check if Batman ever gets out of line. And so issue 130 kind of wraps up that story arc. I'm like you, Bizarro. I don't know how I feel about the ending of issue 130, at least until issue 131 comes out and we can kind of see what the ramifications actually are. But it's just been some really fun comic books. Like, if I'm going to read superhero comics, I don't need it to be super drenched in reality or whatever. It's cool to watch Batman fall from space every now and again. I'm cool with that. It's just been some really, really fun stuff for me. Let's see. The Warworld Saga with Superman was my favorite run for DC this year. It's definitely up there. For me, it's the Warworld Saga. I've really enjoyed Nightwing. I think I put Warworld above Nightwing, and then Flash right under that. That's where I'm at for DC. I've really enjoyed Flash. Failsafe sounds like a very interesting villain to me. Yeah. I mean, it's basically what if Batman had to fight Batman, but it's done in an interesting way. Let's see. Don't understand the hype for Dark Knight Returns. It was good, but I wouldn't say it's the best. I can't tell you. Someone asked, Omnibud said, planning to bind them. Yeah, I'm doing the same thing with the Milestone Compendiums. I buy 2 copies of each one to just read straight through and another to take apart. And what I plan to do with my binds is I'm going to bind all of hardware, all the static, etc. Um, is my plan. But that's why I'm buying 2 copies of each one in case I mess up something. But yeah, has anyone collected or checked out Dwayne McDuffie's Batman? I've got this. Hold on. So this is Batman Blink. This is by Dwayne McDuffie and Val Simmons. Oh yeah, that's his name, Val Simmons. This is a cover by Brian Stelfreeze. I read part of this. This is like I think 6 issues of is it Legends of the Dark Knight? Yeah, Legends of the Dark Knight 156 to 158, and then 164 to 167. I read the first 3 issues of this. And then he also did a story in the Batman Black and White omnibus with Dennis Cowan. I read that. I mean, it's good. It's good superhero stuff. It's nothing that like redefines Batman, but it's good. I like it. So, yeah. You said you bind them. Yeah, my plan is to do a custom bound hardcover with all the milestone books in them. And I'm not gonna use my single issues to do that. So I'm doing that with the compendiums. So there's a video that my guys over at the Hardcover Comic have done showing you how to like prepare a trade paperback for a custom bind. So that's what I'm planning to do once all the compendiums are out. My thing with a custom bind is I'm not going to do it until I have all the material ready. Because what happens if like they stop doing the compendiums at volume 2, and now I just got half of Milestone sitting there with no covers, you know? But yeah, so we're coming up on the hour mark, but let's see, what were some of my other favorites? So I talked about Action Comics. I talked a little bit about The Flash, but let's talk a little bit more about Flash. And some of my favorite comics have been Flash comics. What I will say is like I don't feel like this Flash run is like aiming to be some epic run or some long ongoing story. It's just kind of like a series of really good books to me. They definitely tell a whole story, um, but they there's an overall narrative, right? Like this is definitely a family book. Like Wally West um trying to raise his family. And we get some cool revelations. There are people who have superpowers in his family that didn't have superpowers before. And I like that. But I really enjoy most the moments where Wally's just being a good dad, just being a good husband. In the 2022 annual, it's Wally finally making the time to read his wife's book. Can't remember if Wally's wife is also named Iris. His wife is named something. It's not Iris, but his daughter is like Irie, so it's weird. But anyway, he's reading his wife's romantic novel, but that's like also a science fiction book. And I just loved that annual. In this moment, Linda. There we go. It's Linda. But yeah, it's just this hasn't been a great family book, but there's also just fun action. I have not read the most recent arc of Flash. And so I think the most recent arc starts with issue like 787. Yeah. I haven't read 787 or 788. And this week 789 came out. I haven't read any of these. But I've been enjoying it through and through. Jeremy Adams has done a great job bringing Wally West back to the forefront. I agree. Let's see. Beyond the White Knight is so freaking good. I had never read any of the White Knight books. I need to read White Knight, but I've decided like I'm just gonna wait and do read these all when they come to hardcovers. So Beyond the White Knight will take a little while. Kenneth Franklin just got in. Have you talked about your favorite indie books? I haven't, but I can. So let me show you. I did talk about Do a Power Bomb already. That's probably my favorite book. Like if I had to rank all the stories I've read or all the books I've read, Do a Power Bomb is probably, it's definitely my favorite miniseries that I read this year. If I had to put miniseries and ongoing series all together, I might put it at number 2. I don't know what comes in front of it though. I really like that Action Comics run. I really do. But it's close. It's like 1A and 1B, if I'm being honest with you. But other indie stuff. Hold on. So, my man Skip has been trying to get me to read this book for like the entirety of this year. Reckless by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. And I took some time last weekend, the weekend before. Basically, my whole family was like down with COVID. And I was like, I'm not getting anything done. Let's just read some books. And so I read Reckless one night. And really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. And then like the next morning, I was like, oh, I'm going to read this like later. But I ended up reading the second volume, which is Friend of the Devil, the next morning. And I like this one even more than I liked the original Reckless. There are 5 volumes total. I haven't read past volume 2. And they're independent of each other. You don't have to read one to read the next one. But the Reckless titles I really enjoyed because they were just nice, like escape into a good story type books. So Ethan Reckless is like your traditional, like sort of pulp hero. It's like, I don't know, it's like part James Bond, part John Wick, part, I don't know, Mark Wahlberg in whatever movie Mark Wahlberg is in this week. It's just a dude on a mission trying to solve a mystery. He's not quite Liam Neeson, but he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. In fact, like you call him, I guess this is him with the axe. Yeah. You call Ethan Reckless when you got a problem that you don't want to go to the police with, but you need solved. And he enjoys solving the problem as much as he enjoys solving the mystery. You know what I'm saying? So there are brutal moments in here. There's like, you know, for me, I just love the way it just feels like a traditional, like sort of 3-act story. And it's twists and turns all the way throughout. Like every time you think the mystery is solved, some new level gets introduced. It's kind of like playing a video game in that way. Like some of my favorite video games when I was a kid, like it just gets harder. And it's like, oh snap, like, are you serious? Like that's what happened. So anyway, Reckless was just nice. Like I'm sitting on the edge of the bed. I can't go to sleep. Let me just read something. I read this and I was like, oh snap, this was a great, it's like watching Matlock or something. I don't know. I'm terrible at these analogies, trying to describe one work by telling you it's by about a different work. The only thing that I will say is the Reckless books, they go like right to the edge of like what I consider like a Kicks book. Right. These are not OHCs. These are both standard size hardcovers. I do hope they collect like the Reckless stuff into like some sort of oversized book. But because these are each meant to be standalones, I don't know if that's going to happen. It's not like Criminal where it's like serialized. This is their first time doing like OGNs, I believe. Did Pulp come after Reckless? But anyway, I enjoyed them though. It very much feels like taking, you know, an hour and watching the episode In the Heat of the Night. Like you don't need to watch like, you know, season 1, episode 1 to watch season 1, episode 12, you know? So it was cool. I liked those both a lot because they're such standalones. It's hard for me to like compare them and rate them with other comics. It's like, how do you do it? They're awesome covers. Reminds me of like old Western poster or something. Let's see. Pulp and My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies were before Reckless. They were novellas. Word. So I was reading the afterword. I think it was afterword by Brubaker. And he was saying like this was the first time they did it without it going to single issues first. But I don't know. Maybe he just I don't know. Maybe he forgot. But this one, so Reckless, the original Reckless was what was this one about? It was him like fighting for an ex-girlfriend or something. Yeah. Ex-girlfriend dies. He's got to figure out why she died, who killed her, who was responsible. I liked that one. The volume 2 I liked more. This was Friend of the Devil, where basically he's trying to figure out this girl died or went missing ages ago. He's trying to figure out whatever happened to her and uncovers like this whole like satanic cult and the people behind it. It was really cool. It was really, really cool. But yeah, it's like right at the end, the edge of my sensibilities. Like, I mean, it's literally like a satanic like sex cult in the second book, but each book is really different. So yes, I said Matlock and In the Heat of the Night. I did because I have a grandmother. What Spider-Man omnibus should I get? That's a good read. That's a great question. I've not read any of the Spider-Man omnis that I've bought since I started reading Spider-Man comics. What I've been told is that the J. Michael Straczynski run is the best. But I just got volume 1 a couple months ago, so I can't confirm that. I have started reading Ultimate Spider-Man, and I enjoy it a lot. I feel like because it tells the story of Peter Parker, like basically from the beginning, even though it's an alternate universe, I like it. I feel like I tell people like just read that. So yeah, read that one. It just went out of stock at Organic Price Books, but I think they got more copies coming. What DC and Spider-Man book which that's a new comic lover to get for Christmas? So I actually did a whole video about what books you should get for Christmas, whether you're a DC fan, an indie fan, a Marvel fan, even a manga fan. So check that video out. I think it's like the third video on I don't know, comic book gift guide. I don't remember what I called it. But I'm wearing a Santa hat in the thumbnail, if that helps. I don't have good Dark Horse or Image book recommendations. I don't read enough indies to really like recommend indies, but that's what the chat's for. Y'all let them know what the good Dark Horse books to read. Dark Horse has all the Scott Snyder stuff, right? And Dark Horse also has Dark Horse publishes the Unique Universe. And I read Malika Warrior Child or Warrior Queen. And I also read this year, I read Wale or EXO, The Legend of Wale Williams. EXO I really enjoyed. It was kind of like this Iron Man type book. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Marco says, haha, you have a black grandma like me who also watched Perry Mason and Murder, She Wrote. Murder, She Wrote. I've seen so many episodes of that. Yeah, man. Dark Horse has Bendis, Kent, and Mignola's properties as well. Oh, yeah. So Mignola's properties like the Hellboy, BPRD stuff. Bendis has all those crime noir books, but they're also re-releasing Powers, which is like a superhero book mixed with like a police procedural that I've never read, but I've heard great things about. They're releasing those in trade paperbacks. Image does have Spawn. Image has a lot of stuff though. Like I think my favorite stuff at Image is Skybound stuff. They got Invincible. Excellence is the Skybound title. Robert or I think the Daniel Warren John. I think Murder Falcon is a Skybound book, right? So there's a lot of them. Dark Horse also has Usagi. Oh yes. How could I forget? Firepower is amazing. Firepower is another one of those books that I like got caught up on this year, and It ended up being one of my favorites. I so default to like the same genre even when I switch genres, right? Like, so all my indie stuff is like action stuff, like even if it's not a superhero. But Firepower, I enjoyed. Let's see. So what else? I talked about Flash. I talked about I didn't really talk about Nightwing. I feel like I talked about Nightwing enough on the best of 2021. But what I'll say is Nightwing is still good. Nightwing, somehow we got all the way to this past issue 99, which came out yesterday. And I feel like the plot has not moved along a ton, but every issue somehow is still exciting and impactful. So do with that information what you will. I feel like year 2 of Nightwing isn't as good as year 1 of Nightwing. Like 78 to what, I don't know, 89 was better than 80 or 90 to 99. I don't know. Say that however you want to say it. Year 2 is not as good as year 1, but year 2 is still better than a lot of superhero stuff that came out this year. So that was that. I liked Amazing Spider-Man like enough. I wouldn't put it on my best of list. Dark Knights of Steel, though. Dark Knights of Steel. I feel like Tom Taylor doing an Elseworlds book is almost always cheating. Like it's just always more exciting than everything else. And I think really Tom Taylor doing so well with Elseworld stuff is kind of just an indictment on superhero books, because the problem that I'm having with superhero books is that you don't get to change things really. And it's like if you do change things, then there's just kind of a holding pattern until you change them back. But when Tom Taylor does these Elseworlds books, he can make like drastic changes. He can make like world ending level changes, and it's cool. And so they feel like they have more emotional weight. The stuff that Tom Taylor does with superheroes gives you the same feeling that a lot of these indie miniseries and maxi series gives you. I think that's why I enjoy his work so much, because all the time that you're reading one of these miniseries, maxi series, you're like, oh snap, what's about to happen? I'm on the edge of my seat. And I wish comics in general gave that feeling more often. Dark Knights of Steel, though, it's great. And you know what's funny? You know what's not really making my list? Not much of anything on the Marvel side. I did read AXE. If we got to have like a battle between the two major events between AXE and Dark Crisis wins to me because it had more lasting ramifications, and it was just more enjoyable. AXE was like, I say decent. Maybe if you're a fan of the Eternals, you might have gotten more out of the AXE event. It was fun. Each issue, I think, was well done enough, but I never really cared about the event. And then the way it all ended, it was like, yeah, you were right not to care, because we're not changing anything that takes place in any of the normal books that you're reading. You know? What I will say, though, is I would put X-Men Red and Immortal X-Men together. They would occupy, spots, I don't know, 4 and 5 on the top 5 list, I guess. If I had to pick 5, I don't know, but they're somewhere up there. They're my favorite Marvel titles, and they're like the sort of the twin towers is what I'm calling them, the twin pillars of X-Men goodness, if you want to call it that. My problem with the X-Men books, though, is that they just don't feel like they're going anywhere. But X-Men Red, with all the stuff that happened with Magneto during the AXE event, okay, I was like, all right, cool, I'm down for this. And even after this stuff with Abigail Brand they've got going on, I'm like, okay, all right. I usually do not care about intergalactic space politics, but hey, you hooked me. So that's X-Men Red. Immortal X-Men is really leading more so into that whole thing with Sinister. And for as much as I'm like, another Marvel event, at least this one is an X-Men centric event that we're headed into with the Sins of Sinister. So I've enjoyed Immortal X-Men as well, especially like I said, in the last 2-3 issues since they finished the AXE event. But yeah, I really like X-Men Red. I really like Immortal X-Men. I think if I had to pick one, I probably like X-Men Red more, but Immortal X-Men is right up there. Mark Alon says X-Men Red is the best Marvel book on stands. Yeah, I'm not reading all the Marvel books, but of all the Marvel books that I'm reading, it's my favorite. So I'd agree with you. Raven says New Gods is way better than the Eternals. I really wish they would have gone through with the New Gods movie. Where I don't know if would you have picked Ava DuVernay to direct the New Gods movie? I'm trying to remember the last thing. Oh, that's what it was. Because Ava DuVernay in charge of Naomi was not the business. The Naomi TV show was such trash compared to the Naomi comic. I actually have a video that I've been planning to do for a while called Naomi Season 2 was amazing, and that's a shame. And I never got around to recording that video. And so I think now it'd be better to just hold on to that one until the hardcover comes out. And maybe I'll make it an article on the website too. You're going to do a best collected editions of 2022 next week? I am supposed to. So on the calendar, I've got top 5 ongoing, top 5 minis, and then I'm supposed to do like my favorite purchases. And that's where I would normally put the collected editions, my top 5 purchases and why. Next week we're talking about like just sort of the year in review from a content creation perspective, and you know where I feel like the channel has been and where it's going. That's what we're talking about next week. It's hard for me to do best collected editions because I don't read them as much as I would like to. Like most of what I read every week is just the single issues that I buy, and the collected editions are kind of like a far off goal. Like I'll read those later. Skip's still naming the best stuff that he read this year. Homesick Pilots, 20th Century Men, Mindset, That Texas Blood, What's the Furthest Place from Here, Arkham City, The Order of the World, Nita Hawes' Nightmare Blog, Agent of World, Ghost Cage, ICM, Monster Kill Squad, ICM, Ice Cream Man. Ice Cream Man, I read the first 7, 8, 9 issues of. Enjoyed it a lot. It's not a book that I would necessarily pick up off the shelves all the time, but every issue that I read of Ice Cream Man was really impactful. It's definitely more of like a thriller type book than a straight up horror book, although there are like, you know, horrific things that take place in Ice Cream Man. But I like that every issue feels like a standalone. Every issue is kind of like a very interesting look at the human condition. And that's all I've got to say about Ice Cream Man, because I don't really remember too many specifics, and I didn't read deep enough into the series. Like I didn't read any of the Ice Cream Man that came out this year. So those are his top indies, and Reckless, of course. Word. Arkham City, The Order of the World is a DC book. I didn't. Oh wait, did I read Monster Kill Squad? I didn't read it. I picked it up. I kind of fell off the bad idea train too. So yeah. Kicks nailed it. Ice Cream Man is the best. Like I said, I enjoyed it. For me, like I try to read books that I can read with my kids over my shoulder. And so Ice Cream Man is not one that I'm gonna like keep like just grabbing all the time, but I'll buy it digital, I'll read it digitally and you know pull it up on the iPad like when I'm just having kicks time. You know. And I feel the same way about the Reckless books for what it's worth. Definitely enjoyable books, good books. I enjoy Reckless more than I enjoy Ice Cream Man. Ice Cream Man is just like a book you can't like binge read. Like I could sit there and Reckless is like a page turner. I'm like, okay, cool. Where's the next one? Ice Cream Man, you kind of read it and you're like, All right, that's enough Ice Cream Man for the day. Let's go read some Super Sons. you know, you should read the Grant Morrison Superman Ice Cream Man homage. Which issue is that? Skip had me reading Ice Cream Man too. Yeah, look, Skip is very persuasive. Skip is very persuasive. I do want to give a quick shout out to this mini series that I've been reading, and it is Black Adam. Black Adam by Christopher Priest. And I kind of talked about this a little bit in my Black Panther overview, but Christopher Priest is an interesting writer. And his Black Adam, excuse me, has been good. It's filled with all the things that make Christopher Priest himself. It's filled with all the things that I think make his work enjoyable. Like it's got the humor, it's got kind of the same like sort of white guy, black guy jokes like you get with Quantum and Woody. It's got the time jumps, it's got the nonlinear storytelling like you get with Quantum and Woody and every other Christopher Priest book since. But with issue 6, all of a sudden it kind of comes together that this is not some Elseworlds Black Adam book. Like this Black Adam is very much the in continuity Black Adam, the same Black Adam that became a member of the Justice League, the same Black Adam that is one of the antagonists in Dark Crisis. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at DC like, why did you put this out during the Dark Crisis? Why not put this out like, I don't know, 8 months ago or something? But I also feel like Priest wanted it that way because, again, it's non-linear. You're not getting like, okay, this happened and then this happened and then this happened. It's like everything's a flashback or it's present day. You don't know which is which necessarily all the time. But that whole showdown between Batman and Black Adam in issue number 6, I was like, yo, all of a sudden we're front and center in the main DC universe in this continuity today. And it's like, okay, I see where you're going. I see where you're going. And by I see where you're going, I just mean I see where you are. I have no idea where you're going, but I'm down for the ride. That's how I feel about Black Adam, and I'm excited for the next 6 issues. It's like top tier writing, and I feel like it's not getting the love that it could get because if you're watching the Black Adam movie and then you pick up this book, you're like, what is this? This is not Black Adam. But then it is at the same time. It's weird. This is Priest being Priest. And I think this run is going to read better in a hardcover or in a trade, whatever, all at once. But it's really good. And for as much as you think it's about this Black kid that shows up front and center, it's also very much a Teth Adam, Black Adam book. So, yeah, man, it's up there. It's up there. And that's probably going to round out my favorites. Everything else, I did like Daredevil. I loved Duo. I loved Monkey Prince. I feel like those are all books I shouted out last year. Duo is high on the list. So Duo, basically a reworking a zombie, man and wife in the same head or in the same body. It was a great story. It kind of lost me a little bit toward the end, which is why I didn't end up ranking higher, but I enjoyed it as a mini, and I'm looking forward to the hardcover. I think that comes out in like February. What if Miles Morales? Yeah, we're not talking about that one again. And yeah, I already talked to you guys about the books that I dropped from the pull list this year. Yeah, Black Panther's got a sour taste in my mouth right now. Daredevil, like I said, has been good. It took me a second to get into Daredevil, but with issue 6, I'm fully into it. Yeah, that's probably it when it comes to favorites. Everything else was just a book that I read that was either really good or like mediocre, depending on which issue we're talking about. But those are my favorite titles this year. Always much love and respect for Priest. I hold him in such high regard. He's so goated in comics and remains at such a high level with the craft. Yeah, man. Like when you read a Priest book, you can tell that Priest knew exactly what he wanted to do from the moment he picked up the pen and started writing. Like, I feel like with so many books, it's like you feel like the writer has a general idea, but like maybe based on some feedback or maybe based on sales or something might change stuff around. No, Priest is going to give you the book that Priest wanted to give you, and that's just it. And I respect that, and I love that. Ridley's Black Panther looks to be ending in March per this list that dropped this week. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Yeah, Ridley's Black Panther is ending with issue 15. And if the last 12 issues are any indication of how the next 3 issues are going to be, I'm going to have to call John Ridley's Black Panther run a disappointing run. And I feel the same way about this book right here, that I had such high hopes for you. We were all rooting for you, to quote Tyra Banks. I am Batman. I have been on this Jace Fox, Tim Fox Batman saga since Future State last year, and since the next Batman Second Son series that followed that, all the way into this series. And yes, there's a major revelation at the end of this issue. Cool. But I Am Batman is ending at issue 18. And we're going to have gone through 16 issues of story to get 2 issues crammed into the ending. And what are we really how are we going to define this run? The only thing that changes that, though, is like, does this get followed up with something else? If it does, then okay, maybe this is just, but I'm so sick of tell a story in one book. Like, give us a good story in this book and then move on to something else that we're excited about. I mean, I can't really talk about this as if it's over when it's still got story left to tell. I want to judge a story on its own merits in its entirety, but I just don't have a ton of faith that he's going to wrap up either this run or the Black Panther run in a very clean way. So that's how we go. That's where it goes for John Ridley in comics. 100%. He's got his story. How he's going to tell it, and you're going to accept it, and you're going to print it, and you're going to like it because he's Priest. Exactly. Priest just has so much personality in his stories and as a person. Yeah, man. Like, I've really, really enjoyed it. The more Priest I read, the more Priest I love. I haven't read his Deathstroke. I've read a decent amount of his Black Panther, but I need to read more. I'm almost done with Quantum and Woody, and that's probably my favorite Priest thing that I've read. And then I've read this Black Adam, and a lot of the things that I enjoy about each of them is present in all of the other titles that I've read by Priest. What I have not read by Priest, I've not read Priest's Deadpool. I've not read Priest's he did a Captain America and the Falcon series. I've not read his Deathstroke, any of his Deathstroke. So yeah. And let's see. Raven says, I would not have picked Ava. Naomi was garbage, the TV show, that is. Yeah, man, I hated the Naomi TV show. And so did David Walker when I talked to him. Skip says, oh, snap, 90-minute kick stream. He's going the distance. My wife texted me and said, hey, you got the green light. But with that, my voice can only last for a little while. You know what I'm saying? Priest did the last 18 issues of the 90s John Henry Iron Steel. I hear it's fantastic. Yeah, Priest did that with Dennis Cowan. And I always laugh because Priest did a blog post where he talks about how he felt like the pencils weren't all that. I haven't read the run. I want to actually buy the Priest and Cowan Steel run. But he talks about how He did like whatever he wanted to do with that book because he always assumed it was getting canceled, and like none of the editors were really reading it anyway because it's Steel. So I'm excited to get into it, but I haven't gotten into it yet. But yeah. And let's see, got the Bunk family in town, so missed this all. Catwoman Lonely Sea is probably the best comic I read this year. I'm waiting for the hardcover, and then I'll read it. It should be in my shop next week. And honestly, man, I'm heading out early. Kicks. Have a good night. Have a Merry Christmas. Catch you later. You too, man. Garth Woodson loved Robin. Thought Williamson dropped the character. Yes, Joshua Williamson's Robin was really good. I fell off Joshua Williamson's Batman, but Joshua Williamson Robin was really good. I would agree with that. I didn't read The Shadow War though. And with that, look, it's been real. We've been 90 minutes into this. I hope you guys got to see like what I enjoyed this year. I enjoyed getting your recommendations, and so I get to go back through this chat later on and pick out some things to put on my reading list for 2023. So this time next week, 7 o'clock on the 29th, we're going live again. And like I said, it's going to be more of like a sort of state of the channel type thing. What went well in 2022? What should we be seeing in 2023 from BJ Kicks and Comics Are Dope in this channel? And it's going to be fun. So please stay tuned. Please tune in. And I appreciate you guys being here. Merry Kicksmas. Time to get back to the family. Yes. Huge shout out to the channel family for showing up in the chat. And huge shout out to Organic Price Books for sponsoring this video. And I will see you guys in another one soon. Until then, I hope you saw something you liked. And if not, hey, that's cool. Because you can always buy what you like. Just make sure you read what you buy. And be nice to others. Because kindness makes the world go round. Peace.